What's up, y'all? 2 days ago, I was at this race, the Dirty South Roubaix. And it was a lot happened in this situation. The Dirty South Roubaix has been around for a while. I think it was the 9th or 10th year of the event. Left Friday mid-afternoon, like 5 or 6, and headed out to Illinois. It wasn't too far a drive, it was like 4 hours, 4.5 hours. I got a hotel somewhere close to the race in Carbondale. Yeah, that was kind of uneventful, except for I got all the way to Illinois and I realized that I did not pack any extra contacts. And I was like, oh crap, how am I gonna see? And so I had to go to Walmart, and I went to Walmart, and that was one of the most hectic Walmart experiences I've had in a long time. They were like, Google said they closed at 11, but they were like closing the doors, and it was weird. Like, I didn't understand why they were like closing the doors, but also open till, like, cause they were still open, but they were like, it's like they were like trying to get people not to come in so they could close up quicker. I don't know. But I spent like 25 minutes in this Walmart looking around for contact solution and a contacts case. And the reason I couldn't find it is because instead of it being in the eye section, they actually had misspelled eye. And the sign above the aisle actually said ear instead of eye. And that was wild. But we figured it out. I got the contact figured out, and was able to continue on in this journey. Okay, and so also the night before, I tried to get gas. I went to like a gas station off of the highway. My car takes premium gas, and so I was like, cool, and I went and bought gas. Was like sitting there texting for like 10 minutes, and then I was like, it's probably done. So I go get the pump thing and I put it all away, and I drive away, and I realize that my gas line thing hadn't moved. And I legitimately was so confused. I drove back to the pump and I was like, what just happened? And it was like, it only pumped $4 of gas. And I didn't know what to do about it, and I didn't want to be there anymore, so I just left. But that caused me to have to go get gas in the morning. So as I'm going to the race, I was worried about parking because there's like 700 people going to this tiny little town, which we'll talk about in a second. And I need to go get gas. So I had to go like 10 minutes out of my way to find a gas station because this one gas station ran out of premium gas, and I didn't have enough gas to get to the event, and there was no gas station in the town that I was going to. At this gas station, this dude pulls up, and I get into this 25-minute conversation. He was like, why are there so many gravel bikes? And so I had to explain the whole race to this guy, which he was super nice. I always seem to find myself in situations like that where I just can't seem to like make it to where I need to be. The whole time I was talking to this guy, all I was thinking about is how if that gas station didn't run out of premium gas, I would have already been at the race. Anyway, so I got to the event, and I had plenty of time, luckily. I had like an hour before the race started. I was able to park in just like a field with everybody else. It was pretty chill. The town was called Alto Pass, which seems like a really cool place to hang out. Kind of rural, rustic vibe. I think it was a great location for an event like this. It was the town was kind of like an oval, and there's 2 roads, and in the middle was a park where the event was kind of stationed out at, and it was sweet. I went in and got my packet pickup. It was kind of cold, and I didn't really pack like long riding pants.
I told you to. I literally told you to.
I basically was like, we're just gonna have to be cold. And so I wore shorts and like a long sleeve and a hat. And actually it worked out all right, but it definitely it definitely could have been bad. I wasn't really prepared for the cold. The actual race, we can talk about that. I lined up like 2 or 3 rows back. I honestly didn't know what to expect going into this race. I've been training harder than I've probably ever trained for biking before. And last year I didn't do that at all. And I kind of just showed up to events and did really well in most of them. So I was kind of expecting to do like really well. I knew a lot of the guys there. And so I was thinking like some of those guys who I'll talk about in a second, I know they're faster than me, but I figured I could ride with them for a bit. And I was kind of right, but we'll get into that. The race started off with a neutral roll that was really short. It was a quick one, which I appreciated. I don't really like super long neutral rollouts because I think gravel racing is so dangerous in the beginning of the race. So having a shorter neutral rollout actually, I think, ended up being safer than a long one. The less time I have to be like in a peloton, the better is the way I feel about it. I kind of made my way to the front group. I was on the front with some of the guys I know, Kyle, and I don't know him personally, but I know Spencer Miller, who's local to Indy, was in the front group too. I know, like I said, I knew both those guys were gonna beat me. I figured like that was a good place for me to be. I definitely wanted to just, if they were gonna go, I wanted to make sure I was there to follow. We kind of came into this like the first major downhill, and that was terrifying. I'm not the best gravel bike handler. I was 100% going as fast as I could. I like hands off the brakes, like going down this downhill, because I knew if I slowed down, I had like a couple hundred people behind me who were like also going. And so I needed to make sure I kept up pace with everybody else. And even me doing that, I had people like dive bombing and like cutting in front of me. And I never can understand this in gravel racing. It's like so dangerous, and I just don't have like the mental strength to like feel comfortable in those situations. Like we're going like 30 or 40 miles an hour down a loose gravel hill, and people are just like dive bombing in front of me, and I'm just not good at it. And I tried really hard, y'all. I did, but made it through. Everyone kind of calmed down, and I felt like we kind of had a good lead group established at that point. This kind of went on for another 10 or so miles, and then we hit the first major climb where that lead group of about 10 or 15 broke apart. I was solidly in the B group. There was the A group and the B group. The reason that we were able to have a B group was actually really interesting. Spencer Miller had pulled off to the side of the road. I don't know what happened to him, or I never got a chance to ask him, but he then had to bridge back to the front, which I think he was successful in doing. But I saw him and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna grab his wheel. There's a clip of me following Spencer because I was like, yeah, this is a free tow. That was fun to follow him. And there's another group of guys who all had the same plan as me, and Spencer towed us back to the main group. And then from that point on, he made it to the A group, and then the guys who were able to grab onto Spencer's wheel kind of made this B group that we rode together for the next 15 miles or so. And again, once gravel races kind of shake out, I feel safe, right? Like at this point, like we're in a group of 5, nothing crazy is happening. We're just pace lining, it's all good. But like, man, the starts of these gravel races, I just never have fun at, and I don't know if I ever will. We kind of blow through one of like, the race is like a figure 8, like you go out and around and then back like that. And so we get to that middle aid station and we go on this levee dirt road thing, the Clear Creek levee. It was 8.5 miles. We averaged 24 miles an hour, and I averaged 289 watts for that section of the race. We were just going so fast. I ended up getting like 6 overall on the Strava leaderboard, or it might drop as more people upload their rides, but the thing I'm trying to say is this was a super fast race. At this point in the race, I had a 21 mile an hour average. We were just ripping, and I kept going with these guys. They were super fun. Shout out to anybody in that group. I didn't catch any of their names, but we rode together up until there's like 3 major like rough gravel sections. One of them was at the beginning, that first climb where the 2 groups kind of broke apart. And then there's this one in the middle that was probably the most technical one. I filmed part of it, but there was some really steep grades, like steep short climbs, and 2 of the guys in our group had to walk up this climb and 3 of us rode it. And so the group kind of splintered there. At that point, we were actually catching one of the guys that had dropped off the A group, and there was like 4 of us that were all within eyesight of each other, but none of us were like together. At this point, I was one of the slowest one of the group. I was running out of strength very quickly. That was called the Silka Hill Climb Rollers on Strava. The next thing that happened, and this is ultimately where I stopped racing, we all came out of there, and again, I can see everybody. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. None of us are together. And we turned straight back into the headwind. And I kept chasing for a while and then just ultimately did not have anything left to keep racing. I don't know for sure, but I was definitely in the top 10 at this point, or either I was 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th, something like that. Like the wind just totally destroyed me, and I kept pushing hard until a group of about like 10 guys passed me together, and I had been pushing into the wind by myself for 10 miles at that point. I tried to stay with them and I couldn't even stay with them, and that is where I decided to stop racing, if that makes sense. For the first half of the race, I normalized 297 watts, just under 300. And that was the first 35 miles. At mile 35, like I said, just completely quit trying to race, like entirely. And for the last 30 miles, I normalized 190 watts. I just decided that I was no longer having fun. Gravel's kind of funny like that. Like if it was a mountain bike race, I think I would still be having fun and trying hard. It's not fun for me to like barely be hanging on to a group like in a pace line, and I just didn't care anymore, and I just chilled out. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna ride in, because the route was awesome. I loved the route. I was just having more fun doing that. I stopped and talked to people. I had no cares about finishing in any sort of time at that point. I felt like I had such a strong start to the race. Like I was really in the race, and then just didn't have it anymore. At first I was bummed out about this, and I was like really confused. I honestly thought I would do better. There's a couple things that I think are going on here. One, it's the first race I've done all year, and so I think it is definitely just a little bit of rust in terms of the endurance fatigue. But then I've also thought about this. Staying in gravel packs is very surgy, and it really requires you to like sprint and then kind of slow down and then sprint and slow down. It's a lot of that, and I don't train for that, and that's not really how mountain bike races work. Mountain bike races are, for me, I always talk about this, it's like you really have to focus on like yourself and like your own pace, and I'm really good at doing that, but whenever I have to ride at somebody else's pace, everything falls apart, and that's exactly what I think happened at this event. I'm just not a gravel guy. And I like riding on gravel, but what I don't excel at is riding in a pack or a pace line. I suck at it, and I did try my best, but it's just, you can almost expect the outcome if you really think about like what I specialize in my cycling and what I enjoy. So ultimately, I don't even know how long it took me or what place I got, because like I said, I didn't even try. But big shout out to Kyle for winning the race. We sponsor Kyle, and he's local. He lives in Columbus, and so he actually, like, he's like a physical human that walks in the doors, and like I work on his bikes. So Kyle winning the race, I didn't get a chance to talk to him after it, but Kyle winning the race was super exciting. I'm gonna drop a link to Kyle's social media below. Like, give him a follow. This dude is going to have a monster year. He was top 20 at Big Sugar in 2024, and is clearly going to continue that streak going forward, because he was almost unstoppable at this race. I mean, like at the beginning, like I remember I was talking to him at the beginning, and I straight up told him, I was like, dude, I don't even belong like next to you in the race, but he's legit. Check him out. Shout out to Kyle. I rode the Envy Mog. I posted my race setup on Instagram before the event. If you want to see stuff sooner than YouTube, definitely follow me in the shop on Instagram. I usually post stuff on Instagram first before it hits any other social media. The funniest thing about this event was how many Envy Mogs were there. Like Envy Mog had to be in like 20% of the field. It was crazy. I was like, oh yeah, there's another one. And especially in the front group, like it was mostly Envy Mogs. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The bike is awesome. I mean, just an awesome bike. I went with the Thunderberts, and I would definitely recommend this tire for this event. It's not necessary to run a Thunderbird, but where a Thunderbird becomes necessary, and I feel like this is something that gets a little bit confused whenever you're talking about mountain bike tires on gravel bikes. We were going so fast that you needed the bigger tire to just survive. And I'm not even kidding about that. It's like we did that 20-minute stretch at 24 mile an hour average on just a dirt bumpy, like it wasn't even a gravel road, it was just like a dirt track. And we're going 25 miles an hour. And I mean, I don't personally have the joint strength or the back strength to be able to sit at that kind of wattage and speed without this big of a tire. And I just wanted to put that out there. Like, I would not have survived the first downhill where people were dive bombing me without this tire. Like, I would have crashed. And I don't care if there's a more aero or a whatever lighter tire. I wouldn't have even made it as far as I did with the top 10 group had I not had these tires. So absolutely essential for me personally. And if you're better at riding gravel bikes than me, maybe you have a different opinion, but I know for a fact that this tire propelled me to that awesome first half of the race that I did end up having. The course definitely had some rough patches, but I mean, it also had a lot of pavement. I think if you were like time trialing, like maybe there's a faster tire, but like in a open mass start race, no way. Like ride this tire. And shout out to Kyle again. Kyle won the race on his Envy Mog and 2.1 Thunderbirds. So definitely out there winning races too. If Kyle is running them, like they must be fast because he's pretty technical with his equipment. The other interesting thing about my setup was I got to race on these 303 Explorer wheels, the big dogs. I thought they were brilliant. You can really tell that they don't spin up to speed as quickly as the 353 NSW wheels did, but I can tell you for sure that they are more aerodynamic than those 353s or 303s would be. They really do feel like aero wheels with big tires, and it's kind of amazing how fast they are. I personally think that if you plan on running big tires like this, that this would be one of my #1 choices for a gravel racing wheel set. I did feel like it was just strictly faster than any other wheel set that I've ever used. That's all anecdotal. We're gonna do some testing, me and Trey are, with these and some other wheel sets to find out for sure. But first impression is that they do what they say they are supposed to do, and I think that they are one of the fastest wheels aerodynamically that I've used. I enjoyed going to this race. Definitely wish I had more energy to keep rolling with those guys, but that's all right. I think it was a good kind of season opener, and I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Shout out to everybody who said hi to me at the event. That was super fun to talk to some people who enjoy the channel, and cool to meet up with y'all. I really appreciate it. If you guys want any of the bike stuff that we feature in these videos, always feel free to reach out via Instagram or email, whatever you want. We can build a bike like this for you, or send you the parts so you can build it, whatever you want to do. Dirty South Roubaix, definitely a race that I recommend if you're into gravel. I think Chase would have really liked it, and I kind of think we should have switched, and I think she should have gone, but regardless, fun event. We'll see you in the next one.